Richard Weil, and I'm the principal and owner of National Restaurant Consultants, and we welcome you into a milestone NRC Helpful Moment, number 190. And as always, we have our outstanding co-branding partner, Mr. Brian Devine from Top Line Management and Cafe Fuel. How are you, Brian, this Saturday afternoon in October?
I am doing terrific, thank you. It's gorgeous weather out there, so nothing to complain about. How about you?
Leaves are changing. I'm doing well, thank you. So once again, we have, I think this is his fourth time on the NRC Helpful Moment. Is that right, Steve?
Yeah, I'm almost up to a regular. How about that?
Oh, he is a regular. Steve Pierce, who is one of our senior consultants who resides in the Seattle, Washington area. He's live from Seattle, and thank you for joining us, Steve. Appreciate it.
Glad to be here.
So today we're going to talk about something that is pretty darn important to restaurants. And one of our clients a month ago, tomorrow, had a very devastating fire in their restaurant. Albeit it was accidental, it was electrical, but it was still a fire in the building. And Steve Pierce, Steve's going to talk about fire safety, why it really matters. It really does.
and I think it's probably appropriate. It's probably appropriate for me to be talking about that today. I'm sitting up here in Seattle, and we've got about the worst air quality in the world right now because of all the fires that are burning all around us. So we're
getting some of that. We're getting some of that jet stream air here in Colorado. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're more than welcome. So anyway, and fire isn't really anything to be laughing about, though. It's terrible when it happens, and it's really devastating for a lot of different people. The employees, the owners, everybody in between when something like that happens. And so I think it is a good topic to hit. I can't remember whether this is Fire Safety Month or next month is, but to me, I think it ought to be 12 months out of the year. Just to kind of kick off, people, when you think about a fire in a restaurant, you're typically thinking about something happened in the kitchen. And that's true. More than 60% of the fires do happen out of the kitchen. And there's everything from grease fires to electrical fires and everything in between. And it really comes down to the ways to prevent some of that, or to hopefully prevent it, is, proper maintenance. And, I think on my initial conversation on this helpful moment, we talked about maintenance, and I think it goes back to it again. Equipment maintenance is huge, making sure that you're keeping that stuff properly running so motors don't burn up and catch fire. And hoods, anybody that's in the restaurant business knows that hoods can kill you in a heartbeat. And not only is it important to keep them clean and be doing daily checks, but you've got to have them professionally checked. If you're in a regular restaurant, just cooking regular old food, every 3 months is probably about right. But if you're using solid wood, solid fuel like wood or something of that nature, those hoods need to be checked every month. So it's really important that you have a cadence set up and a contract for that, and it needs to be a no-brainer. It just needs to happen. I think that's the number one thing in the kitchens. And like I said before, there's a lot of grease. I mean, unless you're running a salad bar, and even then you got some, but a lot of grease happens in kitchens. And it's really important that we're cleaning and we're cleaning and then we're cleaning, because that stuff gets on everything. It gets on the floor, it gets on the equipment, gets on the walls, gets on the ceiling. And in case anybody's not sure, grease is flammable. So it's a really huge deal to make sure that you're doing the right thing. You're cleaning your restaurant, not just for health, but for safety too. This is kind of a silly thing, but I've run into it not in the recent past, is, some of these, if you don't have your equipment installed properly, I mean, you plug a piece of equipment into the wrong outlet, they don't wire it right, those kind of things. You got an electrical fire going really, really quick. So it's really important just on the installation of this stuff that it's happening. I know that most of our people that I'm sure that are listening to us, they're running restaurants. They've got checklist after checklist. And I'm sure they've got a checklist for closing. but I challenge them to make sure that on that closing checklist, they've got things about fire safety, that they're making sure everything is unplugged. It's supposed to be, and everything, and they're checking all of those kind of things, as well as, making sure that all the money got into the drawer and all the other good stuff. So I think that's pretty important. There's a few other places though. Like I said, about 60% of the fires happen in the kitchen. Well, that leaves about 40 that happen elsewhere. And electrical is a big deal. Obviously, it happens a lot in the kitchens, but it can happen anywhere. It can happen in the bar. It can happen in the kitchen. It can happen in the dining room. It's a go area, even outside. And anywhere there's a plug or a light fixture or anything. So, you're not just looking to see if light bulbs are out when you're doing your walkthroughs. You're looking to see if there's anything that looks a little smoky, a little black, a little anything. So make sure that, all of a sudden you're not dealing with a flammable front of the house as well as the back of the house. One that happened to me, I guess 2 years ago, is one that I never would have thought about, but I guess I should have, is not to me, but a client of mine, is mulch, outside the building. We've got so much landscaping going in a lot of restaurants, especially the big full service ones. A guy comes up to the front and he flicks out a cigarette, because after all, we're no smoking in the restaurants, and it lands in mulch. And the next thing you know, you've got quite the bonfire going outside. And those things cause a lot of damage. I mean, it gets bad. Sometimes Google mulch fires and see what comes up. It's pretty amazing. So, yeah. And I guess the last big area of fire safety, and it's more about safety in general, and it kind of covers a whole nother topic for us that we'll talk about, I'm sure, sometime, is, sometimes just bad people do bad things, and you got to watch out. Not only can you get burgled and can you get robbed and everything else, but sometimes just people like fires. So you've got to make sure that all of your security measures are in place so that you can monitor and see when that kind of thing can happen. So, that's kind of my take on how it all happened.
Yeah. So a couple other things. First of all, electrical you talked about.
Yeah.
Spend the $500 to $1,000 to have annually a licensed electrician come in and look at your electrical panels and make sure they're not overloaded. That's one. Mm-hmm. 2, used paint, especially if it's oil-based, oily rags, they're flammable. Don't store them inside. Propane tanks, don't store them inside. I know it's against the fire department, but don't put them inside. If you've got charcoal or propane or any kind of a flammable open flame, store it outside and find a little shed, lock it up, whatever. Security, you talked about security cameras. Make sure your security cameras, that'll help you there. If you've got a smoking pit, if you would, to extinguish cigarettes, empty the darn thing at least every day if you can. Make sure there's nothing going on in that thing. Those are just a few more helpful things, but it is a part of the standard operation. Steve, you're absolutely spot on this, fire safety. I'm going to flip it to Brian. I'm not sure marketing is a fire thing, but I'll bet you come up with something, Brian.
I absolutely will come up with something. And Steve, thank you so much for all that. And you're going to hear something from me today that you have probably never heard me say before. Don't talk about this in your marketing. This is probably one of the very few things that not only do your customers not ever think about fire safety, but you don't want them thinking about fire safety. So this is like that one time where I think you should be using those checklists, crossing all the T's, dotting all the I's, following everything necessary to keep not only the building safe, but your staff safe and your patrons safe. But don't talk about it because you don't want to create a thought pattern that wasn't already there. So in marketing, we always talk about meeting your customers where they are now. So whatever the conversation they're having in their mind is where you want to meet them. And they're not thinking about fire safety. So do not create that situation. So this is purely for the restaurant. It is not for marketing or for consumption. And then I'll just throw in that I love the checklists. And if you've got checklists for everything that you're doing inside of the restaurant, have checklists for your marketing too, because it's amazing how fast you can lose track of things, especially if you're going to change hours or you're going to make a change to your menu. Well, you have to think about where all those things have to be updated. And one of the things that can help you, there's a company called Yext. And I'd say about 3 years ago, I would have said stay as far away from that company as possible because they're going to charge you an arm and a leg. And once you stop paying them, then all the work that you've done to streamline how you update everything online will go away. They've solved that. They're not doing that to you anymore. So if you have something like Yext where you can go to one place and it will update everything across the web, and then you stop paying them, it's not going to delete everything that you've done. And I think that is a huge, huge impact. And we've partnered with them so that we can give you a very inexpensive monthly program instead of $1,000 a year. And so that's, and because they made that change, I went, I'm in. I want that access, because being able to say, okay, here's my checklist, and I have to go to this one place to update all of my online materials, that saves an amazing amount of time. So I want you to at least know that that's available to you. And it's very inexpensive monthly now instead of having to spend $1,000 up front.
Well, I'm going to tell you, we don't normally do a lot of paid political announcements. But we're in political season here, only 3 weeks away from the general election. We're not going to go left side, right side, or in the middle. But, Brian and what Top Line Management does and Cafe Fuel, it gets results. I'm going to also say the same thing about National Restaurant Consultants. We've had Steve Pierce on. He's been with our company now for not a long period of time, but a good period of time. He's brilliant. And I'm just going to say that. He's brilliant at what he does. The clients that he has had in the past prior to joining National Restaurant Consultants are delighted. His clients thus far with National Restaurant Consultants are delighted he's an expert. Folks, if you want to continue your business forward, get a hold of us. We are affordable. I can tell you we're affordable. We give returns. And this is our paid political announcement. We're not running for office, but we're running for the industry. We are advocates for our industry and for our clients. So, check us out. We've got lots of good information we can share. A lot of times, it doesn't cost you a dime. That first consultation, it doesn't cost a thing to talk to us. And same thing with Brian. We're always there, glad to help. So that's our NRC, I guess, our paid political announcement today. But anything else, Steve or Brian?
Well,
I think we're great.
All right. Bye for now, everyone. Thank you.
Bye for now, everybody.
Thanks.